here. Is there any other apologies? Minutes of the sorry, Nan. Yep.
Can I give apologies for Councillor Brennan and Councillor Thomas and Tommy Brannigan from Ute Hill Community Council?
Thanks, Nan. Yep.
Thanks.
Item 3 is the minutes of the previous meeting and matters arising. Is everyone happy with the accuracy of the minute, or anything they wish to supplementary add? Nope. Item 4, local priorities, starting with environment. Ros?
Michelle's
actually Michelle. Sorry, Michelle.
Thank you, Chair. So we had a meeting last Friday of the environmental subgroup, and I've got a note here of some of the things that were discussed, and we've got some of the people that were at the meeting here this evening, so it's great to see everybody. So the meeting started with reviewing the actual action plan that was agreed previously, just to look to see the progress that's been made, and also, you know, some of the things are now complete, and, you know, it's a live document that we'll be adding to. So we were having a look at that and the activity that's happened to date, and there's been quite a lot of things that has gone on since the action plan came into force. And I'm just going to go through a couple of things here. So we are looking to capture all the information for the activity that has been funded through the NL Activities Fund. So that will include a lot of things such as litter picks and other activities. So we will be capturing that. VANL is at the moment in the final stages of producing 6 guides. And I'll just quickly go through the topics. So it's community-led greening and conservation, community-owned renewable energy, green home energy, community food growing, active travel and community transport, and community sharing and upcycling. And as a part of these guides, there will be information on how to run your own workshop. So there'll be, you know, all the details, the timings and what to include. So those are in the final stages, and we're hoping they'll be produced very, very soon. So that's good to see that's happening. My colleague Monroe Fraser is the contact for this information, and we'll share his email address after the meeting should anyone want to contact him. Another thing VANL is looking at is looking at a pledge that organisations can be involved with, but that's very early days, so I don't have any further information other than just to share that that's being looked at the moment. Part of the assistance VANL can provide is help with an environmental policy should any organisations need that support. Again, my colleague Monroe can help with that. We also looked at future meetings and the frequency, and we decided as a group that we would look at quarterly meetings, and they would happen before board meetings, just so that we could be updated. But that's not to say that we won't be discussing things in between and updating each other and recording information. So that's what we decided for that. We mentioned a couple of other activities and organisations. I see we've got Alison here. So RSPB was mentioned, and how that's a great facility, and it's great to have it in the Motherwell area. It's very well positioned for transport links. And, you know, we were looking at, you know, things about a visitor centre. We mentioned, I don't know if Alison can confirm this, but we looked at the schools go down there and do activities. And if not, is that something that you might wish to do? There was a large event, and it's Alison. Do you want to come in just now, Alison?
Well, if you want me to, yes. I know that the RSPB will be investing in the reserve over the next couple of years, and in fact, I've been talking to people about, to Michelle in particular, about the possibility of accessing funding for that. Historically, there have been a lot of school visits, and the plan certainly in 2019-20 was to have lots of school visits. Obviously, things have changed since then, but it is certainly something that the Reserve Warden is looking at, and I will ask him again, and I will say that it's been raised within the subcommittee, and and discussed at the community council, and try and see if we can therefore encourage him to do more. Over the summer. There is planned work which will be likely to start in the autumn, and that may restrict visits by schools, but not otherwise. I will get back to the reserve warden and I will see what gentle persuasion or pressure I can exert on him.
Great, thanks, Alison. So there was a large event within the civic centre recently, and it had primary school pupils and high school pupils, and just the enthusiasm about environment was infectious. They were so keen about being involved, and my colleague Monroe had a table. I popped in to see it, but it was a really good event, and we're hoping to engage more with schools just to see what activities are happening currently, so that we can engage with that and have a note about it. Something else, I don't know if we've got an update, but we spoke at a previous event where there's an area at the back of Strathclyde Fire and Rescue where there's a space where a group or maybe volunteers or maybe a school or whatever could be involved with working in that area and sort of bringing it back to life, if you like. So I don't know if there's any update, Leanne.
Michelle, I'm going to a meeting about that next week to talk about how we move things forward. My previous colleague Darren Jones had been involved in some early discussions around that, but I'm picking it up next week just to see what the next steps and what we need to do to start to look at the wider community engagement and get people involved. But I'll obviously like that in the environment group and community engagement groups once I've some more information.
Thank you. So I've walked past that recently, and I think it is a great facility, and I think it would be of benefit to a lot of people, and they would use it. So we'll see what happens with that area going forward. I know that Councillor Rob had mentioned, and he's here as well, bee bricks, and that's something that he's a bit more research into that. And apparently these bricks allow bees the opportunity to live, if that's the right term, within these bricks when the weather's cold. So and that's the bees that are not involved with hives and pollinators. That's the right term. So we'll hear more about that, no doubt, once we've got some more information. What else have we got here? I had brought up that it might be good to include the information notice boards, certainly at Duchess Park, because some of it's hard to read, and I think it's such a busy park that we could update on environmental things going on locally. So that might be something we can look at to do that. I know that Roz is having a meeting at Duchess Park on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be able to give more details in that once we've got it. And we're looking at dealing with one of the teachers at Dale High School with a potential orienteering activity. So that's good to hear about that as well. We're also going to be collating information about litter picks and what's been happening and opportunities to do more around that. There's some work taking place around the Venny up in Craig and looking to maybe store some equipment and that premises as well. What else have we got? We've had a mention of the Newt Hill Gateway tree lighting project. So I don't know if we...
That Nan had
Nan's put forward. So we discussed that, Nan. That was great. What else have we got? Councillor McGowan had also mentioned information at the Venny, and Craig Nuke, our residents and tenants meeting. Is that tomorrow? Councillor McGowan, 15th? Yeah, so that's happening. Also mentioned about the repurposing of old council planters and how there's a lot of things that maybe organisations have no requirement for, but they could be repurposed for the benefit of the community. So we had a discussion about items that went to the recycling centres. So could there be a place there where you and I or a group or whatever could go and see what there is? We could upcycle it, recycle it, whatever we want to do. So we had a discussion about that, and that's
and it's a lot more a lot more investigation,
Oh,
I think,
yeah.
and a lot more discussion, because perhaps there is already things going on locally that we're not
Yes.
aware of. So it is about researching that to see, you know, does that happen already, informally or formally, or and does it happen with other organisations, so we can tie in maybe a bit more.
Yeah. So I think that's most of the things. That only other thing for me to add is we would love more people to attend the subgroup. So if that's something of interest, speak to Rose or myself, and we'll see about getting you involved in the subgroup. You'd be very welcome. I think that's me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosanna, no.
No, I think that's fine. I think some of it is stuff that is longer term, some of it is shorter term, you know, and the invite had gone out to all of the groups that had been involved, had managed to acquire recovery NL funding in the last year. So it was to see if they had wanted to feedback some of the good work they're doing. So we're going to continue to build on that. Yeah.
And if you don't mind, through your chair, I can see some of the projects that we're looking at through LDP coming through there as well quite clearly. So it's good to make those connections. It might be good at a future meeting to bring, if you've got a kind of action plan, just a kind of headline actions for a wee bit of discussion at a future meeting once it's a wee bit more developed.
Any further comments for those online? Councillor McGowan?
I think Ros, one last thing, you were going to contact the chair of the Friends of George Street Park.
Yes, I have got that in mind.
Maybe to look at a possible LDP project.
I'm going to go up and meet Alison, but we've just not quite found a day that we can both manage yet. But I'm going to let you know when that is, Councillor McGowan. So
that's
that
great,
because you wanted to come along. Yeah, it's
that's fantastic. Okay, thank you very much.
No one else? Okay. Mental health, tackling poverty and inequalities, Sarah?
Hi there. So I'm giving an update on mental health, tackling and inequality subgroup. So we've had 2 meetings since the last community board meeting, which was one on the 11th of January and one on the 22nd of February. Representation at these meetings so far have included NHS Health Improvement Team, Council Community Partnership Team, Banel, Motherwell and Wishaw CAB, PLD, Forgewood Community Centre, North Lanarkshire Disability Forum, Tackling Poverty Team, Sam H and Motherwell Baptist Church. So there was some chat last time about whether we were going to separate this subgroup or whether we were going to keep it together. We did actually have a vote at the last meeting, and we decided that we wanted to just keep it together because these things sort of intertwine, and it just makes it easier for people to come to one meeting. And we can't sometimes talk about mental health without then talking about tackling poverty. So we've decided that we want to keep it together. So within these meetings, we've talked about various different things. So if I start talking about some of the things we've talked about for mental health first. So the members within the subgroup have agreed that in order to keep local people informed of mental health and wellbeing services within the Motherwell area, we want to do that by using the existing platforms. So we've agreed that we're going to start to promote the Alice website, which was previously the Locator tool, which is now Alice website. And we have been informed that all the information from Locator tool will be transferred over onto Alice very soon. And that means that we can go in as organisations and update our own accounts to keep that up to date. And then we can promote this website to the community, which means there should be a one-stop shop for where everything is kept to be able to show people in the community that. We've also shared the NHS Lanarkshire Psychological Services digital resource. So there's lots of information on that and how to self-refer into cerebral services. So the North Lanarkshire Disability Forum are also running online groups twice a week, which is to tackle isolation and loneliness. So these are now well-established groups. They started up in COVID, and it's been reported that the groups have helped to improve the people's moods who have attended that. CAB are also running a project called CAB to Careers. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. So they've recently just had their funding extended, and it's been a really successful project for mental health and has provided opportunities for all age groups because there's no target age for that project. We also shared some new dates with Stigma Free Lanarkshire, which is the Understanding Mental Health Stigma and Discrimination workshop. We do have those dates if anybody is interested in that and does want to sign up to that. We've got some dates for that. We also had a representative from SAMH attend one of the meetings. There is a resource centre available on Hill Street in Motherwell, That helps people to find information and access services related to mental health and wellbeing, but that is in person, so you can go in and you can get that support in person. They also offer peer support sessions for people experiencing and recovering from mental health problems, and you can self-refer into these sessions. There's also a new group session starting that is run by SAMH, but it's happening in Motherwell Baptist Church at the moment. So if I move on to the Tackling Poverty, so we recently rolled out Tackling Poverty Community Champions training. This training was offered to the workspaces within Bellshill, Motherwell, Wishaw and Shops. So it's all the community drop-in points that are on the council website, and staff and volunteers are given that opportunity to come and attend that training. It's based on the North Lanarkshire Worrying About Money resource, and the aim of the training is to increase understanding of poverty and its impact, and to increase confidence and knowledge to ask about money worries as a routine inquiry. Then also to increase the knowledge of the support services that are out there for money worries. We delivered 2 sessions in February, so one of them was face-to-face in Forgewood Community Centre, and the other one was a virtual session. Over both sessions, we had 26 people attend the sessions, and the evaluation was that participants' confidence had increased when raising the topic of money worries, and that their knowledge then increased for the support available. The North Lanarkshire Worrying About Money resource is available for everyone. It can be found at foodaidnetwork.org.uk. You can get that. You can order 3 copies of that, so that can be available for any community group, anyone who wants that. It's also available in lots of different languages. So, for example, Ukrainian, Arabic, and lots of different languages. And obviously, you can get the printed versions, which you can get to take away, but you can also just access it online, because obviously it's constantly getting updated with new groups and new organisations which are available to help. We also discussed that North Lanarkshire Disability Forum has accessed 12 months of funding for a cost of living support officer. So Martin has now actually started in that role, and he has attended our subgroup meeting. He'll provide practical assistance to improve health and wellbeing, looking at energy costs, benefits, and will help to fill in forms. We also noted that members of the subgroup have noticed that there has been an increase in people struggling with the cost of living crisis. And CAB are working really hard at distributing fuel vouchers, as there are real demand for these. So these are for the prepayment meters, and CAB have partnered with the fuel bank to be able to provide these. They did actually give us some numbers. So 405 vouchers were given out from mid-December to mid-January, which is a lot considering CAB was shut for 2 weeks for Christmas. Also got the energy rebate vouchers. So the stats on this is quite shocking, that 1 in 5 families on prepayment gas and electric meters haven't claimed their vouchers. So that's the vouchers that go through the door that you give £66 off. The vouchers are sent every month and they expire after 90 days. However, suppliers can reissue these if they're lost or expired. All vouchers must be redeemed by the 30th of June 2023. So if you do know anyone that's on a prepayment meter who hasn't claimed their vouchers, has lost them, anything like that, they can get them re-established, but they just need to be claimed by the 30th of June. CAB are also delivering energy investing training. They've delivered that to the health improvement team in Motherwell, Bellshill, Wishaw and Shots. They've also came and delivered it to the Motherwell consortium for all the members in the consortium, and they also came and did a session at the baby massage class in Motherwell. So our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday the 19th of April in Forgewood Community Centre, and like Michelle was saying, we're always looking for new members to come along, and if you're interested, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We would value everyone's input. And just a wee side note on that, we also have a weekly health improvement newsletter, so if you wish to be added to our distribution list, let us know, because we put lots of information out there on a weekly basis. And if anyone has anything that they want to share on that newsletter, we can also do that. So we can put it out, and then we put it out to all our contacts within Motherwell. Thanks.
Yep, thank you, Sarah. Any comments, Berthan? Berthan, is it? If you got a question, you might be on mute. Bethan, it's not coming through. Maybe there's an issue. It won't be an issue if you establish a connection or establish to come off mute and we can ask it retrospectively. Is anybody else got any comments or questions for Sarah? Yep.
Thank you very much indeed. It's just really it's comment to Sarah about the success of the Warm Places initiative. My friend Motherwell, who I represent as and Dale Dundas Parish Church, we have been planning that out, and as at the end of February, we counted over, I think it was 1,250 visits for the hot soup and the bread and so on and so forth.
Well worth it.
And the fifth month to go. So it's been a colossal success, and there's a lot of need out there. And we knew that families as well as individuals, so on, and some very regular, some perhaps once or twice a week, and so on and so forth. But has been we're grateful, very much appreciative of the approach from the council in relation to some of the funding supports, and that's been excellent in terms of putting on for that number of people. It's been very important.
Did you have the worrying about money's leaflet in your service in the workspace?
Well, I give you a note to catch you about your newsletter and get my email us on to.
Because it looks like that. So if you don't have them, we can get some to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll meet up at the end, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
So I just wanted to appreciate that. Chair. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ben?
Yeah, so our team had kind of administered the funding and did the kind of engagement to get the Warm Places up and running, or the community drop-ins as we're calling it. But just to say to you that we will be doing an evaluation at the end to look at what's been successful and what's not, and to make sure that we're able to have that information available to those who have participated, so that we can use the learning moving forward. And I think that'll be really important, linking that into the work of the subgroups and things like that as well, in terms of any learning that comes out of that.
Clearly is a need for them. They clearly are being accessed to, a lot. So
Right in the town centre, which I'm sure has contributed.
Transport links, etc.
Yeah,
absolutely. Excellent. Thanks very much. Thanks, Sarah. Community engagement and community safety. First up, Vanel.
Okay, thank you. Community agreement, there's a lot of consultation taking place right now. Some of it started this week, and we've had some previously. So this was previously called Community Concordat, which we've updated here at the Community Board. So renamed Community Agreement. So just to let you know, it's the same thing. So this is going to be an agreement between basically everybody in each of the 9 localities. So it involves residents, community groups, statutory partners, the community and voluntary sector, private sector, basically everybody. And we want to engage with everybody to get their opinion on how we all work together going forward, and we have shared values. And I think there's a lot of people here at the Community Board have dealt with various partners and other organisations and ourselves as residents, how we engage. So I would encourage everybody to get involved as much as they can, just to have the say and to shape how things go forward. So in terms of the event for Motherwell, it's actually tomorrow morning. So whilst I'm giving the update, this is very much a partnership, and it involves, we've got our colleagues here from NHS, we've got Ros, myself, we've got Scottish Fire and Rescue, and we've got Police Scotland. So all partners are there, and the event tomorrow is at Forgewood Community Centre at 10 o'clock, so it's on between 10 and 11:30. We'll be facilitating the session, and there are a couple of questions we're going to ask people and get some conversation, just so we can gather that feedback. So these events are happening across all 9 localities. Partner organisations have been looking at consulting, but also there's a number of conversations happening with some groups as well. So there's going to be a lot of feedback coming back in, which should give us a vibrant, up-to-date, relevant community agreement that we all have hopefully had some input. And so that's what's happening. And Motherwell is the first one that's starting tomorrow. So over the next few weeks, they'll be happening across North Lanarkshire. I do want to touch on the fact that there have been some events previously. There's been some thematic events, and there's been some great information obtained up till now. Following this, one of my colleagues will be compiling the evaluations from all of these events and bringing that together with a planned design day happening in a few months' time. I don't think we've got the date confirmed as yet, so we can share that once we have the details, and that will design how this looks going forward. So very much please contribute if you can't attend tomorrow. You may be covering the whole of North Lanarkshire, attend another event. The details are on the Vanel website. Community Matters can also share details, but also there will be a survey that you can take part in. So even if you're not free tomorrow, then you can still contribute to this process. And I think that's everything to update on the community agreement.
Thanks, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle? No. Update from community safety priority work. If you can take the police first, start yourself, Michael.
Liz, thanks very much, Chair. Just double check you can hear me.
Yep, perfect.
Great. Thank you. Start, if you don't mind, Chair, with just a very quick introduction because I'm new to the group. My name is Michael McCullough. I've been in post for just over 2 weeks and I'm the Community Police Inspector for Bellshill and Motherwell. Thanks for the invite and appreciate being able to come along, albeit virtually. The updates for yourselves and keen to get any feedback and touch base with issues as they have been reported at the meeting, and I have checked the minutes for previous actions for myself. I don't see anything particular jumping out, but please correct me if that's not the case. So I'll cover a couple of topics that are probably of note. Youth disorder. There have been, as you would expect, several instances of use disorder over the covering period, and it continues to be a routine issue for us in terms of policing, but has been mostly sporadic, I believe. Happy to stand corrected in terms of existing issues, with the exception of perhaps Motherwell Town Centre and the Ravenscraig, in particular Ravenscraig Sports Centre areas, which both feature in terms of our weekend disorder plans and antisocial behaviour, working with in particular with the community police. The next issue is in relation to an update which I believe may have been reported on before, in relation to Operation Moto X, which I think was launched back in July of 21 and focused primarily on some of the issues in the street regarding motocross bikes being used. There has been a significant decrease in the issue across the board, and in the last few weeks, along with North Lanarkshire Council, Police Scotland managed to acquire and have completed the training for a number of quad and dirt bikes that we are now deploying on in relation to that specific issue, and across a host of other issues that we'll use them for. So if there are any specific areas that need updated in terms of our targeting, please let me know. The next one is slightly linked, is in relation to speeding, which I saw come up in the minutes of the last meeting. The National Speeding Campaign launched yesterday, actually, and will run for the next couple of weeks, move into enforcement phase week after next week, in fact. And I've put in a specific request for a couple of areas to be targeted. Arbo Road in Motherwell and Shields Road, Motherwell. And I'll get feedback from our traffic units in relation to that. We'll also do what we can when we can if there's any smaller issues in terms of community policing and the target and the speeding. And just one last one, we've had some focus on drugs activity in terms of our community policing capability over the last while, and had several warrants executed, in fact, in the last week in the Motherwell and Craigneuk areas, where we had several arrests, reported several persons, 2 of which were for drug supply, including cocaine, cannabis and heroin, and a 4-figure sum recovered in those as well. There are several other areas that we're looking at in terms of development and the drugs issue going forward. And I had nothing else by exception, Chair, but I appreciate it's my first meeting. There may be some touch points and issues that people want to raise that I can look at and come back to you on.
Thanks very much, Michael. Is there any questions or comments for Michael? Dan?
Hi, Michael. The only thing I want to bring up is Newt Hill, and I don't know if it's happening elsewhere, but we're having major issues with graffiti. It tends to be UC Celtic in yellow or orange writing. They're doing it in the back of people's garages, on signposts. It's absolutely everywhere. Much more than what we've had before.
Did you say, is it the same tag as they
It's the
refer
same
to?
tag, yes. It's the letter UC and Celtic. Somebody said that they're a group of youth that are obviously Celtic supporters. They don't think they're local to Newthill. They think they're travelling in and round about, which makes me wonder if elsewhere's having the same issues.
I will be able to check, and it won't be hard to find in terms of a photograph to allow me to do some comparison stuff on that, because we do photograph them, and I can see if they've come up in other areas or in the city.
Well, we certainly can forward on photographs, because one of our members goes round and paints them over. This is some of the money we've used from Recover NL. But unfortunately, they've been spray painting on the Welcome to Newthill sign, which is stone. So it's causing quite a bit of damage there. The other issue is the quad bikes. But I did speak to our community police, Gary McLean.
Yep.
So he was going to kind of keep an eye on that for us.
And Gary's one of our trained officers in our new quads.
Yeah.
If you can send me an image, I'll do the checks and see how far and widespread that is. If it is a gang, we should be able to get some context around how big that gang is. The challenge in identifying and reporting a particular individual within a gang of people is the bit we need to overcome there. But leave that with me, and if you can get me a picture, I'll take that forward if I can.
Could you send me or get an email address to me of where I should send it to?
Yeah, I will. I'll do that through the secretariat for the meeting.
That's super. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Michael. The Scottish Fire and Rescue, are they online? No. No. No one from Scottish Fire and Rescue tonight. So that takes us on to contextual safeguarding from Andrew. Oh, he's running late. Oh, right, okay. Right, okay. Digital inclusion, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Chair. Really excited to be here tonight. It's really great to see people face to face. So my name's Lynn Gow, and I am the Communication and Engagement Officer for Digital NL within the Council. Part of my remit is to develop the Driving Digital Locally framework, and I actually looked at my notes, and it was actually 2 years ago tonight when I just first started this job, and I actually delivered the Digital NL presentation at this very board. So I'm here tonight with my begging bowl again. So over as part of Driving Digital Locally, we set up in late 2021 a subgroup, and it was as part of Digital NL, and we had a commitment from each of the 9 community boards for 2 representatives to join that digital subgroup. So that we set that up maybe late 2021, and to be quite honest, it is progressing quite well. We've got a clear governance structure in place. We've delivered on feeding back to council's digital and IT strategy. We've delivered on some of the mapping community assets across North Lanarkshire. And we've also been involved in some of the testing and promotion of the new learning platform for community boards, which I'm sure some of you have been on. As we move forward to 2023, we are starting to look at digital opportunities which exist within your own area. And we have started to work with a connectivity partner, Comsworld, as part of their community benefits. And they've joined a few of the last, we meet on a monthly basis, and they've joined a few of the last monthly meetings just to try and look at what exists within each of your areas and where they can deliver some added value to the contract that they have with the council. So as we move forward, we've kind of agreed with Comsworld that in order for us to move forward with community benefits, we really need to figure out what's actually being delivered in our areas around digital inclusion. And because we can't move forward until we know which opportunities exist. So really the purpose of me here tonight is for Motherwell area, we actually really don't have any representative on the digital subgroup. We had one member which came and then didn't come and then couldn't come, which is absolutely fine because it is a voluntary. But in order for, well, for me, in order for everybody's voice to be heard, you really have to come to the group and be represented on it. And I think that's really my ask of tonight is, as part of your commitment to your digital priority across your LOIP, if you could, if someone would like to volunteer to come along to the digital subgroup, as I say, it meets on a monthly basis and it's virtually. And also, if as part of your representation on the board, then you would take what's happening in the digital subgroup, come and report it to your board, and vice versa. So we can set up almost like a two-way communication between what's happening in digital inclusion and what's happening at the community board. The next meeting for the subgroup is the 23rd of March, which is next Thursday. And if anyone has an interest in digital or would like to come along, even just to be nosy, and even accept people to come and just be nosy about what's going on with the digital subgroup, then either speak to Rose or Leanne, or I'm hoping somebody maybe put my email address in the chat bar, and I would love to see you come along.
And we can, because obviously there's some people in the room and some people in the chat bar, but we can make sure your details are circulated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Any questions for Lynn?
Just to say, I
Rose?
think, Lynn, I think I know the chap spoke to me about to say they hadn't been able to come along for some time from Craig Nuke, but he was saying there are significant issues
Yes.
in that area, and they are really struggling at the venue for connection, but he realises that he's not been just because of other work.
Yes, yes, he did.
So he is planning to be engaged, so hopefully well after his new child is born.
Alison?
Yes, just I'm certainly happy to find out more about it, and if I can be available, I would be happy to do that. But I think as part of digital inclusion, we actually also need to think about people who are not digitally included. Perhaps you're already doing that, because there are an awful lot of particularly elderly people who do not have and will never have internet access and other digital capability. So I just wonder if that is also part of the brief, kind of looking at that and seeing how that situation can ensure that these people aren't disadvantaged by their lack of digital ability, as it were.
Yes. No, Alison, you're absolutely right. And these are all type of things that we look at. However, I've just add that last year, the council applied to Scottish Government and we were very successful, and we got 200 iPads and MiFi boxes. And it was specifically to engage with our elderly tenants across North Lanarkshire. And we gave out 200 iPads across our retirement complexes. And as part of it, they also had 6 months IT champion, digital champion to support them for about 6 months. And it worked really, really well. And what we've actually done now is we're actually on our second project where we've teamed the elderly tenants in those complexes up with some of our primary 6 and primary 7s. And we're on our second project now. It's like a month-long project where we go into the retirement complex and the older person speaks about things that they done back in the past or they done at school, like food they ate. And the kids bring their iPads and the elderly tenants have their iPads as well. And they start to bring stuff that the older people talked about back into life, into the digital world. And I get that you're saying that people are digitally disadvantaged and particularly elderly, but there are elderly residents across North Lanarkshire who are very digitally engaged and they've maybe not been digitally engaged, but through this project they have been, and it's been great to see.
I'm just wondering really at the more, I suppose, more practical level of a neighbour, for example, who says she can't, we've been looking stuff up for her on the North Lanarkshire website, actually, because she hasn't been able to access it because she doesn't have access to the internet. So I think that's a whole group of people who are seriously disadvantaged. So I'm happy to learn more about the group, and if I can be involved, and happy to consider it. But it would depend on a variety of other issues that other commitments that I have.
Happy to chat offline with you.
Okay, that's fine.
Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Lynn. Item 5 is the standard item, community matters, looking for input from local community groups and agenda items. Does anyone have anything they wish to contribute? Nan.
Hi, just to give you an update from Newt Hill Community Council. Just to say that the Recovery NL grant that we received has almost all been spent, mainly on equipment for litter picking, paint to cover the graffiti, etc. We have got tomorrow with Brannock High School 2 sessions for litter picking round about the school and also on at the underpass and Glenmore Road, which has been an area of antisocial behaviour. So if we get them to tidy it up, we might revert the issues. We've also got litter pick arranged for the 26th of March at the old Silverbun Hotel site, which is an absolute disgrace. It's growing onto the pavements, etc. So there's a team of us going down there. The Muir Street community benefits, we are getting our benches put in tomorrow in the welfare park. 2 small benches at either side of the football pitch and 2 benches out with the dog park to allow people to sit and enjoy the area. The community grant we received last week and want to thank the councillors for their monies for the community grant allocations. This will go towards the flowers again for the village and to extend the football so that we can hire it and sublet it to the teams at a minimal cost. And it's been good. We've had Cleland Boys Club have been using it every week and have taken it up till the end of May. We managed to get 12 extra planters, the green railing planters. Couldn't get any inserts. It looks as if they've all been destroyed, but we managed to buy planters that fit inside them. So that'll be extra for that. And green space participatory budget, we were successful in that. And I had a meeting yesterday going round the area in the Woodland Walk where we're going to have wildflowers planted, notice boards, information, and they're going to use a lot of the old tree covers to recycle them for the new plants. So no dates yet of when that will start, but that will be in progress as well. And I think that's about us.
Brilliant. Great work, Nan. Absolutely excellent. Anyone else? Oh, sorry.
Just to follow on from Nan, our benches go in next week, and must acknowledge the stamina of Kirsty Gray, who's worked exceptionally hard to get to this position. So we're looking forward to these being the town centre benches. The grounds are open substantially now, and welcome folk in to that. And coincidentally, we're looking to a litter pick. Maybe it's part of the coronation event type of thing. There's various things kind of coming our way, suggesting we should be trying to do something on the Monday, and we're looking at maybe a little bit for that. But it's early days for that. But we're talking whether that's town centre or whether it's a park or something. I'm not sure yet. But something will happen for sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's no one else. Item 6, community coordinator, Pam.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Lynn said, this is interesting. I think it's the first time I've been at a hybrid meeting that's worked. So that's I think that's good. Well, so far so good. So just I suppose a quick few updates from myself, and some of this I think we touched on maybe at the previous meeting, and we undertook to get updates. So I'll cover some of those areas as well. So first of all, I'm delighted to hear that the benches are finally coming. As you say, that's been quite a slog, I think it's fair to say. So that's good news. In terms of I suppose the council's budget has now been approved, and I think at previous meeting we did do a briefing for members of the board in terms of obviously the challenges that the council and obviously all councils are facing in terms of the budget challenges, both in terms of the overall resources available and obviously the same pressures that everybody else is facing around inflation, cost of living, and so forth. So it's been a very, I think, challenging process in terms of looking at how we kind of have to identify where the savings will come from over the next 3 years. So that process or the budget has now been set, as I think we'd said before. I think in the end it's currently around £65 million that the council will need to save over the next 3 years. So that, as I say, part of that is around looking at the potential reduction of the current arrangements for school transport, and this statutory consultation is now underway on that, and further details of that are available on the council's website if you're not already aware of that, and that will include a number of drop-in sessions, and there is a drop-in session I think planned in here for the 28th of March. Again, I think the idea is we would book slots. So again, you would need to go onto the website, I think, just to get the details of that. So that's underway at the moment. I suppose on the positive side, although clearly the council does have a lot of savings that it has to identify, I think as part of the budget, this settlement this year, there's been additional just under £1 million put in to support or improve or increase the level of grass cutting and grass maintenance. So it's still, in the overall scheme of things, still not a huge amount of money, but it will hopefully improve the upkeep of some of the areas, which obviously has been of major concern to communities over the recent years. So hopefully moving on in terms of maybe some more positive updates around some of the ongoing work, and in no particular order, that again, I think we've spoken about previously, and people will be aware of the work to improve the access into Ravenscraig. And you might have noticed there's quite a lot of disruption at the moment, which is partly related to the demolition of the Target's garage. I think there was an issue with a gas main that was part of that, so that's part of why the road cut off. But we are on track, if you pardon the pun again, in terms of getting the under bridge that's going to go underneath somehow. Bit worrying that I'm actually responsible for that, but don't ask me the technical details. But if you're anywhere near Ravenscraig, you'll probably see at the moment there's a massive concrete structure, and that is going to go under the West Coast Main Line in April. And I am assured that it's all hopefully going to go to plan, and that it coincides with the planned closure of the West Coast Main Line, which it was already planned. So it's all got to go according to plan. And I think there's going to be briefings for elected members, and we'll make sure that those briefings get circulated to the community via Community Matters as well, just to keep people updated on any related disruption that might be. So things are going well, or according to plan, in terms of the Ravenscraig access, and as I say, that links to the relocation of the Evans Halshaw garage onto the Target site, and then the road is going to go through there, and the tenders are getting prepared for that work at the moment. So maybe slightly less positive in terms of, but still progressing, was the work to Muir Street and the Motherwell station. So again, all of you that live and work in Motherwell are aware that work has been ongoing for some time now. There has been a number of issues and challenges associated with that, particularly in relation to the work to the station. So basically a lot more work had to be done than was previously anticipated, which has caused delays to the overall programme, and there's been recently issues around Scottish Power connections as well, and issues there. So it is progressing, and hopefully by the end of April, and hopefully I'm not here at the next meeting saying that's going to be delayed again, but that's where we are with Muir Street. So hopefully you'll see a big improvement when the station works are complete and the Muir Street works are complete, and the we're also, as I think Kirsty updated previously, looking to improve the active travel links as well, linked to the work around the station. So definitely a lot of activity and improvements, hopefully, that you'll see in Motherwell. We also, I mentioned before, there's going to be consultation around the development of the town action plans, which was linked to the town visions that have previously been approved. That again, consultation, which would be based in the Motherwell Library, has been delayed slightly. So we're now looking probably towards the end of March, April for that to go live, and that will be, you know, for people to come in face to face. But again, as soon as we get the dates, I'll send it to those for that to be circulated via the Community Matters email, so that everybody hopefully can come along to that. I think Councillor McGowan quite often asks me or asks around the progress with the YMCA building and at Brandon Street. So hopefully you'll be pleased, Councillor McGowan, that the work is now underway. So that is an exciting one of the bigger town centre housing developments, and that will see the improvement of the YMCA building and also the development of the Brandon Street site. So again, hopefully people will see that work starting or is started, but see some progress on that fairly soon. And
Yes,
finally,
very pleased.
good.
Delighted. Thanks, Pam.
Excellent. And also in terms of Meadowhead Road, so again, something that we've I think discussed at this meeting previously was around the plans for Meadowhead Road, which was the road safety improvements and the active travel improvements. So again, those proposals were approved at the Environment and Climate Change meeting in February, and work's now underway in terms of the tender for that work, and we'd anticipate that the work will get underway probably around June time. And again, in terms of any disruption, that's time to hopefully minimise disruption, but there will be further communication that will come out to residents around what's planned and what the implications of that might be. And again, anything that we've got that we circulate, we can put out through the Community Matters team as well. So I think that's me.
Excellent, thank you, Pam. Any questions for Pam?
Question.
Michelle?
I'm just wondering, you know, all the work that's going on at the train station, and there's the roundabout, and it looks like you're going to come off there and head up to the train station and the new road. I'm just wondering about crossing that the actual footpath, because I don't see anything about traffic lights or how you're going to get across there if it's an exit from the roundabout.
So, I mean, I can basically send you the link that's on the website,
Right.
and that'll show you,
Right.
you know, what's planned and where the crossings are. There is currently one of the issues that we've got that's caused some of the delay is about where the crossing's going to go, because you can't have the crossing on the bridge for safety reasons for the rail. So we're having to maybe move where the crossing's going to go. But in terms of the Muir Street proposal, what's going to go on Muir Street, then it'll be easier for you to look at it on the.
I'll have a wee look, because I was thinking about the roundabout that's at the library. But I'll have a wee look online. Thank you.
No one else? Yep.
Just, it's not something you can solve, but I just wanted to share a wee thing about Muir Street. Last Friday, a meeting with the Scottish Churches Disability Group, FITI, coordinated with the AGM's been held here this year. And the chairman is blind, has been since birth, and is also not young, and has some mobility problems. Arriving at Motherwell Station, there was no lift. Now, with all the work that's going on, I can't ask you to go and rush and put a lift in. It was very, very challenging because there's 4 levels to go down, to come up. And then if you move to a different platform, as we did, platform 4 to go back to Motherwell, back down 4 different levels, and then a lift sitting there with a thing on it saying, well, it's not, we can't rush down next week and solve it. But if there's anything we can do to indicate to the contractor that it is a priority to get the lifts going, because it was quite embarrassing. He managed this guy, and he was uncomplaining. But there must be other. Had he been in a chair, even to manage. Unfortunately, it wasn't. And I'm just thinking, people will get caught there, and it'd be very unfortunate because it's looking really good once you're in about it now. So if there's any way to kind of just have a wee push to say, remember, get the lifts in as soon as you can for the benefit of people with disability.
I'll, as you know, Kirsty and the team are on constant dialogue with the same contractor, Balfour Beatty. So we'll pick that up, and I'll
Don't tell them what I get my
Yeah.
hopefully.
Thank you. Thanks very much, everyone. I notice Andrew Gillis has joined us. Andrew, we moved on and obviously coming back to you now, so you can present. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair, and apologies for being late. It's late coming out of the Civic and then getting the train. But thanks everybody for allowing me to come tonight. I've just got a very short presentation just to introduce you to something that we're working on in the council and with partners called contextual safeguarding. And I'll just share it now. If you just bear with me 1 second. Can you see that, everybody?
Yep.
Thanks. So contextual safeguarding, and I'll just draw attention to the second part of that quote, is an approach that seeks to identify and respond to harm and abuse posed to children and young people outside of their home, either from adults or sometimes from other young people. And what we've kind of found through some of our sort of improvement work across all the partners is that where we've been more effective is focusing on harm within the home, but less good at intervening and supporting young people where they may be exposed to risk outside of the home. So what this does, this approach, is build on all the work that we're doing around about community safety, but actually building a child protection focus on that, and really addressing the harms that are faced by some young people outside. So the sort of things we're talking about when young people are subject to potential sexual exploitation or criminal exploitation, sometimes there's serious violence among groups of young people. That can also involve some bullying. Occasionally we do see some radicalization outside the home and sometimes abusive relationships among teenagers. So what we do through this approach is working with social work, police, and health, as you'd expect in child protection and education, but also really with those people who've got responsibility and also have got the powers beyond the normal child protection agencies to protect young people and also to look at how to make spaces and places safer. So, for example, we were talking a bit earlier about those changes to Motherwell station. So what we did is some work with local businesses, with the British Transport Police and our youth work to support some young people who have been congregating there but were at risk of some criminal exploitation. So that's the sort of thing that we're trying to do. So it's not about just moving young people on or just kind of move them away from places. It's about making those places safer or those groups of young people safer. So why are we here at all the community boards? Is really because we recognise that the communities play an absolute vital role in this, having intelligence and knowledge about what's happening in the communities, and we want to involve the communities much more in how we're working and protecting our young people. So we've been listening to what young people have been saying to us, and on this slide, we've just put together some of the ways that young people have felt they've been described. So we've been describing them as not engaging or as aggressive, or sometimes saying that they're putting themselves at risk, where in fact they're at risk from adults rather than putting themselves at risk when they're in the community. So we're listening to young people and trying to reframe and talk about them in a more relationship-based way to gain their trust as we try and support them. And the sort of ways we're intervening here and supporting them is about recognising when they've experienced some trauma, helping them to recover, building trusting relationships with them and their families, and then re-engaging them in community activities and obviously in education, and then making those places and spaces safer. So whether that is working with a group of young people, or as I say, working with in a location to make that safer, wherever that may be. I'm hoping you might get a copy of these slides. I'll make sure that you do. There's a wee video on this slide that will tell you a little bit more about the approach that we don't have time to go into today. But what we are proposing is to doing a little bit more of an in-depth session about what this approach means, what the role of the community boards potentially can be, and how communities and businesses can play a real role in doing this protection work. So we'll be asking community boards to think about and nominate somebody to go to that event, and then we'll be linking with community safety subgroups, etc., and developing the approach as we go forward. So that's really probably all. I'm going to just stop sharing. I know we just had a brief time just to introduce the concept, so I'm happy to take any questions. Or
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for that. Is there any questions for Andrew? Oh, yeah, Leanne. Yep.
Yeah, Andrew, there was some discussion at some of the other community boards about how all of the community boards in North Lanarkshire do have a portal where there's a lot of information. I see Lynn, you're obviously writing the same thing. So there is a portal that's about supporting the community board members and providing them with the information and the skills that they require to be able to participate as fully as possible and to help to represent their community. So there's a whole load of topic areas on there. There may well already be reference. I know Matt Cassell from my team, from our team, is our specific link into this agenda. I think there might be some limited information on there, but certainly if you wanted us to do something a bit more detailed for the community board members, we could do that, no problem at all. We can upload information, further detail, and also obviously happy to engage around how we maybe have that discussion about linking better into some of the subgroups and things like that.
that's really helpful. Thanks. We'll make sure we get that information then into there. And there's just one or two wee videos that actually is just really helpful to watch that describe it probably more eloquently than I did there, but and from the point of view of the community as well. So that's great. Thank you.
We saw one of the videos at one of the community board meetings, and it was really, really powerful, really good. So I'd urge you to have a look at the videos. It really does explain.
We'll make sure that information's here with the wider community board. All right. Thanks very much. Go back to item 6, the LDP update, Leanne.
Thanks, Chair. I know I've spoken a few times tonight, and I'm assuming everyone does know it. My name's Leanne Pollock. I'm Community Partnership Manager from North Lanarkshire Council. So I'm just going to give you a very brief update. The Local Development Programme report was circulated with the papers. It's a standard report in terms of the main body of the report. It comes to all community board meetings. And just in terms of some background, the Local Development Programme is a capital programme. It's resources that the council has that can be used for capital projects on council land. But really the project should be community led and ideas should be coming from community. So things like play provision, parking, heritage features, community safety projects. So just a kind of call to say we're always looking for project ideas. We can't always deliver every project that comes forward, but we always like to have ideas that we're engaging with the community around. So if anybody's got any ideas, and I'm particularly thinking about things that are coming up through the subgroups that could potentially be small scale community kind of capital type projects and maybe coming out of some of those environmental discussions, or even, as Andrew's saying, some of those discussions about how we can make places safer for young people and things like that, we can certainly look at that and look at ideas. So we do have a proposal forum, but we would normally say that people should make contact with either myself or Ros in the first instance, just to talk through the project to make sure that it meets the eligibility criteria, and we can then share the forum with you and help you to complete that. We do that so that we've got that information to make sure that we can look at the feasibility of the project before we kind of bring it to the community board and take it any further. Ultimately, the budgets are approved through council committee, but we really are keen that the ideas really should come from and be supported by communities and come through the community board structures. And we would work with communities around engagement approaches, and that would be very much dependent on the type of project that you were taking forward. Just a wee note as well before I kind of mention some projects in particular. The budgets and timescales are indicative, and projects can be, because it's a capital project, we can take the project into the next year, can't take the budget, if it makes sense. So if there's going to be a delay of a project, sometimes we'll have to move around and reprioritise. For example, right now we are looking at some delays, and that's to do with some of the inflation and the challenges that's presenting to some of the contractors, labour shortages and some of the issues around market capacity and demand. So there are some projects that are on the list there that normally we would have delivered by now. We've done all the engagement. Some of the parking projects, for example, we've done all the engagement. They're relatively straightforward and they would normally have been delivered by now. But because of some of these issues with the market, they've just been delayed into the next financial year. So it's a 5-year programme, and we're currently coming to the end of the second year, and that's why you'll see that the list that's there as an appendix, it's getting shorter as we get through the year, because some of the projects have been delivered, and once they're delivered, we'll take them off. And once we've reported to the board that they've been delivered, we remove them. So in terms of, Motherwell does have a fairly healthy budget in comparison to some other areas in North Lanarkshire. So again, yeah, just up to talk to us if you've got any ideas coming out through local discussion. We're looking for the community board to support in principle one project tonight, which is Robert Burns Avenue parking bays. I know that we've got a proposal form in, and there's still some further work to be undertaken, but we're just looking for the board to support that in principle. I'm happy to take any questions or comments in relation to, I won't go through the appendix in any great detail. We are coming to the end of the year, so a lot of the projects are either delivered or about to be delivered, or you'll see some of the player parking projects, because of some of those challenges we outlined, kind of ready to go, but we're just waiting for start dates, so they may move into the next year. So any questions or comments, I'm happy to take them and do my best to answer, or bring Ros in because she's more close to this. The only other thing that I would say is, what you'll probably start to see through the reporting around Deloitte priorities is that some of the projects that we're delivering around LDP, and we're seeing things like Recovery NL and some of the different projects and grant processes might start to, well, should be starting to come through it, because Ros is doing loads of engagement around LDP projects, so that'll be coming through the engagement subgroups and things like that as we move forward. So you will start to see more of a connection between the agendas.
Well, you remember from last year there was the loaning that had come with a new play park for that area. So that's now, it just shows you how long it takes for things to get there. We now have got the tenders coming in, and that's to be scored at the end of the month, and then that contract will be awarded for that work to get started. So then we'll know once the successful supplier is going to be who's going to who are going to deliver it, then what the timescales will be for that to be on. So hopefully, that'll not take too much longer. Just depends who comes back and what the timescales have to be. And as Lana said, depending on all of the necessary items being available, all the right groundworks being done, and there'd be no other technical issues with it. So hopefully that will. Obviously, with regards to the Robert Burns Avenue, and as you say, that's early stages. That's been looked at for new parking bays, and the Roman Road, which was another petition that came last year. And again, there's more work to be done around the play park and the Roman Road, but we're very pleased that Lanarkshire Deaf Club are really keen to be involved in that process. Some of the local schools are, so we're kind of working on that project at the moment, just to do a bit of background research, checking the ground, and bringing people together to work on that. So that's kind of moving ahead, as well as obviously the most newer one is the Newart Hill tree lighting project that I spoke to Nan about last week. And before I even got back to the office, she had the form filled in my inbox, waiting on me getting back in. Here it is. So yeah, points for that. That was great. So so we're working on that. But Nan and the Community Council, as they are, have done a lot of the background work to check things out before they even brought it to us to suggest this. So yeah, hopefully that's going to move ahead quite well. So there's a number of other things as well in that we're looking at a project up in Craignuke, which I've not said anything about yet on it, but up near the venue, about the rail bridge that goes under to the track, where the pump track is, but see if we could do something to upgrade that. And I'm very pleased that I got word back just today from Network Rail to send us some ideas about their plans, and they'll come and meet with us. So that was a major step forward. I didn't think that would go so easy. So hopefully we, Ian at the venue and a lot of groups and a lot of organisations together, coming together to look to develop that project, now that we know that at least Network Rail are kind of open to the suggestions. So that will come forward at some point. Don't know how quickly that's going to happen, but it will come forward at some point. So yeah.
Any further questions?
One more update that I meant to mention earlier here, just to provide members with an update in relation to the CCTV at Duchess of Hamilton Park. Just to say we should now have 2 fully functioning cameras at Duchess of Hamilton Park. There are further 2 static cameras to be installed, or they may well have been installed early this week. We were told that it would be done this week, so I don't know if it's been done yet, but just to let you know that is progressing. And we do have some of the cameras in, and the further cameras will be going in at some point this week if it's not already happened.
Excellent. And the board are in agreement to progress the Robert Burns Avenue parking bays as well? Yep. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Item 7 is any other competent business? Leanne? Oh, Pamela? Oh.
It's just on the other side of it.
Oh, on the other side. Yep.
So there is. Yes,
Yeah.
no problem. Leanne, open space strategy engagement.
All right, okay. Again, Pam might want to come in, she maybe knows more about this than me. I've just been involved in the engagement side of it. So it's really just to provide an update to the community boards about what's to come. So we will be bringing more information to the next meeting, but certainly the community partnership team have been working very closely with planning and other colleagues across the council to look at how we engage communities in the development of the open space strategy. And really, we're just kind of putting a placeholder to say we'll be bringing more detailed information to the next community board, but also that things will be happening between now and the next community board. So linked to the delivery of the law, sorry, that's the wrong bit, I'm looking at. The Northland, we've started to develop the strategy, and that's about setting out the strategic framework. Just to give you a wee bit of background, for North Lancashire's policies and proposals for the development and maintenance of open spaces and green networks, and obviously that's central to that is about local access to space that people can use and people want to use and feel safe to use, and that means it's important that the council hears the views of people who use North Lancashire's open spaces and play opportunities, because so this will be about more formal, like play provision and things, but also those less formal spaces that are valuable to communities, and what the council's priorities are in relation to that and how we can work with communities. So beginning in April, we'll be starting to ask people and groups to respond to a survey initially, asking for their views on the quality, quantity and accessibility open space and play opportunities in North Lanarkshire. We'll then, to the next cycle of community board meeting, bring some feedback around that and talk about the next stage, around maybe bringing together some focus groups in each of the areas and around kind of particular equalities groups, with a view to informing in the development of the strategy, which will then be circulated for final comment later on this year. So it was just to really put that on your kind of agenda.
Any questions on that? Yep.
Chairman, thank you. I just wondered, is there a link between that and the town centre action plans in terms of the interrelationship of open space and new developments?
Yeah, I mean, very much so. I mean, I think the open space strategy is a requirement, it's a duty that we have to do it, but it's clearly an opportunity as well, because as Leanne's saying, there's an opportunity for the community to identify what areas of open space are important to them. So it's not, we've obviously got a huge amount of information around where the open space is, and we have to do audits of that. But the community also feed into that in terms of which bits of open space are important to them. So it's got to be a two-way process. So it's a big bit of work, and it's going to take us a reasonable amount of time to do it. So just think when you were giving the update on the environment subgroup, I think it's something that the environment subgroup would be particularly engaged with and involved in, and there'll be quite a lot of opportunity. But yes, it is about linking it with the time visions as well.
Plan community board session.
Yeah, again, very briefly, Chair, just to say that we will be organising a session. We were looking at the end of March, probably into April, and it's about how we're going to be, how the information's pulled together to produce the reports in relation to delivery of the local outcome improvement plans, and that information that comes from the subgroups, and how that informs the reports that come to community board meetings, which obviously communities and voluntary sector organisations are absolutely part of. How we use that information to inform reporting that comes to the community boards, and how we use that information to report, for example, the council to committees, to the NLP Strategic Leadership Board, etc. So it was just to help, because we had a few questions at some of the community board meetings around what the monitoring framework looks like, how information's pulled together, etc. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hold a very brief session, giving people information about how that's all going to work, and allow people the opportunity to ask questions, and to make sure that we're making it as easy as possible for the subgroups and those who are involved in the subgroups to feed information through that process, because it's quite complex, because obviously we've got a number of different partner agencies, communities, voluntary sector organisations all trying to feed into the one delivery process. So we were just hoping to have that session, just to let you know, again, another placeholder. I just wanted to briefly mention this, taking the opportunity after the discussion earlier on where we were mentioning the community board development portal. It was just a reminder that all community board members do have the opportunity, that if you don't already have access to that, that you can get access quite easily just by sending us an email, and we can add you and get you a login, get all your login details and things sent to you. We did ask the council's talent and organisational development team, who are leading in the kind of background work around development of this portal, to recirculate information to those who are already. So I think that was, again, that might have happened today. I've been in meetings all day, but I think something maybe was circulated today, and if not, it will come out over the next few days if you've not received it yet. But if you've that will only go to the people who are already registered. So if you're not already registered and you wish to be registered to be able to access all of that information, or to inform how that develops, please just get in contact via Community Matters and let us know, and we'll arrange that.
Thanks very much, Leanne. Everyone happy with that? Community benefit offer for us?
Yeah, it was just taking let you know that I've actually got a telephone conversation with the chap tomorrow, but he had sent me an email to say that they're working on the ongoing kind of sprinklers project in some of the towers, and there's an opportunity for community benefits as part of the work that they're doing in the area. So that would be around financial support or community benefit, you know, for a community project. Now, don't know how much, so please don't tell me big ideas. So I'm not sure, because I need to speak to him to get a bit more information about how you would qualify for that type of things. Non-financial support for community projects, so maybe stuff to do with, you know, just general support around governance or anything like that, that it could be, or just other general piece of information that you think, or training that you think would be a benefit. But again, I'll talk to him about that tomorrow to see if we can flesh that out a bit. Apprenticeships, some work experience, you know, maybe a site visit to see how things happen, so that if you're in attendance and residence group, or you're in another group, that maybe that would be something you'd be interested in. So I'm happy to feed back, you know, before the next meeting, clearly, once I've had a chat with them to see what there is. But I'll put it through Community Matters, so you might see something coming out to say what ideas have you got to report, to bring them back to us, and then we can speak to the company to see what they can support us with. May not get everything, but hopefully they're offering something, so that's good.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks, Ros. Does anyone have any other competent business? Michelle.
Please, I know that we've circulated it, but it's just to highlight that the next round of the community and voluntary sector locality network events are taking place in May, and Motherwell and Belsill have joined in terms of locality for these events. So the last one was in Motherwell, this next one's in Belsill, and we'll alternate them. So I can tell you that the next event's Thursday, the 11th of May, between 10 and 1, and it's going to be in the Salvation Army Hall in Belsill. So we're always looking for community groups, partners to register an interest to be a speaker or attend, network, bring some leaflets. So there'll be more details shared in an Eventbrite link to book on that, but it's just a sort of save the date update at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Anyone else? Yes, go Sarah.
I just bit of information about our street soccer programme that we've got running. It's actually had quite low attendance, so I'm plugging it so that you can encourage people to come along to it. So street soccer is a 10-week football session for 9 to 16-year-olds. They provide a pop-up football pitch in an area which is suggested by local partners such as Police Scotland and the Fire Service. It's an opportunity for young people to participate in physical activity and socialise in a safe and friendly environment. The targeted approach, which works at reducing antisocial behaviour, is supported by partnership organisations. Current block is running in Kylemore Crescent on a Tuesday evening, 7 till 9, which is in Forgewood, but attendance has been really low. So just if anyone knows anyone that you can promote that to, we've got a poster if that wants to go out to anybody, that would be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Anyone else? Oh. Date of next meeting, do we have that, Rosalind? Let's say it.
Notional dates, but we will confirm the detail in the kind of format and things.
Excellent. So that'll be circulated once it's decided and nailed down. Thanks everyone who attended online and for those here in person. Good night.
Fine, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.